Thank you so much. Good afternoon. So let's look a bit ahead. This is about vision of a future, medium-term future. And I'm delighted to be here with you at this Central European Technology Forum, which is a great conference since a couple of years. And I'm very grateful to the organizers for having me. So I will share with you some thoughts about technology and revolutions, then future industry, what we call in Brussels. And I've seen there's a lot of back and forth exchanges between Brussels, people coming from Brussels, going to Brussels. Very good if we have these networks. So what it is, what we intend to do and achieve with the Industry 5.0, the future of industry, and then share some engagement opportunities for each and every one of you here in Horizon Europe in European projects. So technology, and you see here Melvin Kansberg, who has termed these laws of technology. Technology is fundamentally a human activity, and it will remain so for quite some time. I mean, there are those who predict that at some point in time machines will take over. Michio Kaku thinks that will be happening in the mid of the 21,000th century. So we still have a good 100 years, certainly, where human activity will prevail. And I'm not talking about that long-term future. So it's fundamentally a human activity, and I think that is key in order to understand how we can influence its direction, the direction of technology development, because I think it's quite right. Technology is neither good nor bad, but it's not neutral either. So it depends on us what we are doing out of it. There's a lot of talk about the industrial revolutions, that we are living in the midst of an industrial revolutions. Most of us refer to the fourth industrial revolution, and this is a term coined by Klaus Schwab, the founder of the World Economic Forum, who wrote in 2016 this book about the fourth industrial revolution. There is Carlota Perez, probably the economist who has looked in most depths at the intersection between technology, innovation, and economy. And for Carlota Perez, we are in the fifth industrial revolution. So you see here on the right the simplified model of the industrial revolutions when it all started with mechanization, then mass assembly fueled by oil, by petrol. Then came in the 1970s the computer and IT, and the fourth industrial revolution would be about the merging of the digital with the physical and the biological worlds, the cyber spaces, and the merging with the biointelligent, for instance, is a big trend right now. On the other part of the page, you see that for Carlota Perez, she distinguishes, and we can see this much better here in the down in this red circle, that for her, the first industrial revolution was really the mills, the cotton mills, and age of steam and railways came later. Perez associates these industrial revolutions always also with infrastructure. Very important, because we are also seeing now that economies flourish if they have a good digital infrastructure. And without a good digital infrastructure, it's difficult to flourish. What I want to conclude here is, let's not get excited about the numbers. And these are all theories, whether we are in the fifth, in the third. There are Brynjolfsson and McAfee from MIT. They've written a very good book, The Second Machine Age, or the Machine Age. For them, it's the second. It was only machines, and now it's IT. Never mind. But we are in the midst of a revolutionary development as regards technologies, and now comes policy. I'm sure you all recognize this visual. from the European Green Deal. I've been working for the EU for the best part of my life, always with great passion, and was the best thing in my career. Really, this is my life project. I've never seen a commission which managed to have one overarching big project like this one, the von der Leyen Commission with the European Green Deal, the ambition for Europe to become the first climate neutral continent. Everything we do is oriented under this important project, and for a reason, because we do see that we live in a planetary emergency, that we are living beyond the boundaries of our planet. So this is grossly simplified the development of our societies, from hunting to farming to industrial, with the timelines are of course very different, and it's now accelerating information society and what the Japanese name Society 5.0, with the industrial revolutions. And maybe this works. Yes. So Industry 5.0, I would put within this current revolution. So let's not discuss too much about the numbers. Let's discuss what it is about, and this is about the direction, sustainability, resilience, and most important of all, human centricity. So I come to this future industry. And here you have the definition in our concept paper. It's really about recognizing that industry can be, must be the solution rather than the problem when it comes to sustainability and the way we secure a decent living for everyone. And for Europe, for European integration, industry is very important. 1 in 5 jobs is in industry, where you have deindustrialization, democracy suffers, European integration and solidarity suffers. So it's very important for our common future. And you see these 3 elements around Industry 5.0, human-centric, resilient, and sustainable. Before I come to these 3 dimensions, I want to share with you the findings of a workshop we had with all the heads of research and technology organizations in Europe, looking at the technologies needed for 5.0. And of course, you have the sustainability technologies, the circularity technologies, but you see here, again, like for Schwab, the bio-inspired, bio-intelligent technologies, in addition to what we need to for a virtual world with human-machine interaction and modeling and simulations. So this is at the core of the technological development we will also fund and continue to fund in future. So human centricity. Here, there's a clear positive message. We all remember the figures from Osborne and Fry that with automation, most of jobs are threatened and we will lose them and there will be huge unemployment. We don't see this trend. We have good employment, relatively good employment in the EU and also in the other major economies. So there is these predictions are not happening. That doesn't mean that they're necessarily wrong. It means that we can steer the development. Technology is not neutral. We can steer these developments. And what I find quite encouraging here is that this fear that we would have an increase in a downscaling, an increase in low-skilled labor force is not happening in the last 20 years. We don't see this trend. And actually, we are currently analyzing this in a project called Beyond 4.0, which also confirms that there is no effect on a negative effect on employment. High skill needs are here in European, for Europe, stable and highest, slightly decreasing. For the US, it's different. Quite interesting, challenge also for us. But you see the middle skilled dimension is increasing. So very important input for all our skills policies, and I think we will have the occasion to discuss this in the panel later this afternoon. But all in all, for the time being, we are on the right track as regards employment and skills development. And then human centricity is really, if you look at the past industrial revolutions, the individual came at the very end. And it led to the introduction of the secondary education, social welfare, social laws. And perhaps we can do it a bit better in this revolution and start with the individual. And if you think what was now discussed under the term the Great Resign, that after COVID, with COVID, and we see this more prominent in the US, but also here, people do want a job with a purpose, asking more questions about what, where they want to put their energy, their skills. And as we all know how important skills are to be competitive, some speak of a war for skills, attracting talents. If you have the clear objective at a company level, at a regional level of working towards sustainability, you will have this human centricity, the well-being, and you will be probably better placed than the others as regards attracting talent, attracting the millennials, and also making the best out of the ingenuity of the individual worker and the creativity. And that brings me to the second dimension, resilience. When we started this concept of Industry 5.0, that was after the Green Deal in 2019, there was no COVID yet, and not, let alone the energy crisis we have now with these prohibitive high energy costs. So the resilience element was not yet informed by the crisis we have, and the idea that in future probably we will live through perma-crisis with more crises to come. Resilience has gained a lot of importance, and this requires, again, skills, but it is based on the human centricity element. If, as a company, or whatever your level of responsibility is, if you count on the ingenuity of the individual, if you capture the creativity and the innovation potential, you will have the best results in terms of resilience. And we've seen that during the COVID crisis. Small and medium-sized companies and family-owned business were particularly good in this resilience element because of their concentration and attention to human centricity. And here, this is taken from a paper of last year, which provides us with a schematic view of the difference of focus between 4.0, where you have all these augmented reality, human-machine cooperation already. However, you have the this union of technologies, the capacity to have a joint cognitive cooperation between the machine and the individual worker. That is a huge differentiation factor. We are not yet there with technologies and applications. There are some good examples, but it's far from mainstream. And here we have to look at the resilience, the self-resilience, but also the system resilience. And this is coming when we have this joint cognitive cooperation under what we call Industry 5.0. And then sustainability, I can be quite short. Industry is roughly standing for 1/3 of emissions here in Europe. We need to be resource efficient. We need to move to renewables, to electrification of production in order to live within the boundaries of our planet. The digital transformation is equally important, creates its own challenges. Just think of energy demand through data storage, but at the same time provides huge opportunities to master this transition to sustainability. So how to get there? There is a paper from an expert group established by us in the European Commission, which I really recommend for your reading if you're interested to go into more detail, where they call very credibly that we need at all levels, at company level, at political level, at societal level, have a transformative shift in attention and in our action. So looking at value chains, looking at business models, a fundamental review of our business models in order to turn them into circularity and sustainability. We need to harness, of course, the digital technologies, and at the same time, I think, and that resonates, I'm sure, with most of us here, also the governance and governments need to adjust for this transformative technological transition or revolution. And this is here about what they call governance 5.0 or government 5.0. It is really about making it easier for companies, notably for the small and medium-sized companies, to get access to the authorizations, to have a one-stop shop, to have regulations fit for this transformation. And you might have seen this in what we call Repower EU. This was our answer within the Green Deal ambition when the energy crisis started. We said, okay, we'll now accelerate our ambition to reach the 2030 targets, Repower EU. And one of the elements there was we need faster authorization procedures. Because with the current procedures, we will not master this challenge. So this is also important for reaching the objectives of a future sustainable, resilient, and human-centric industry. And we have calculated under the European Research Area what is needed to reach in the energy-intensive industries our 2030 targets. The technologies are there, the investments are not sufficient, but the biggest stumbling block here is the authorizations of first-of-a-kind installations, the deployment of the technologies of today. And this is where we have to do better, and where we from our side will also help. For instance, we are considering a community of practice. And if this sounds far-fetched, we can take encouragement from quite a number of projects which are already going into that direction. I mentioned this Beyond 4.0 project. The human manufacturing actually was about human-machine interaction, 12 partners across the EU, making concrete use cases and trying to take this idea of a joint cognitive cooperation, human machines, one step further. It's not yet there. Kyklos 4.0 is about circularity in manufacturing. So if you want to see this in terms of a paradigm shift, in manufacturing, the paradigm was quality, cost, and speed. And now it's quality, cost, speed, and sustainability. Otherwise, it will not be sustainable, competitive. So, and there are more projects we are funding in that direction. One has to do with skills. This is a Bridges 5.0, which just started to map what are the skills needs in this transition to Industry 5.0, and will develop training schemes, something to engage with if it's relevant for you. And we launched the first competition award among projects which we funded, which we thought could become role models for others. And it's quite encouraging. At the Research and Innovation Days in September last month, we presented the winner, RAMP PV. Very interesting, radically innovative upcycling of PV panels. This is a big issue which is coming. All the materials in the photovoltaic panels which will come now to the second stage where they need to be recycled. So it's happening now. I will use the last 5 minutes of the time I have here to try to motivate you to engage more with us in Brussels with Horizon projects. And in order to be successful, we've seen very interesting statistics on the European Research Council before. I think it's important to understand the overall logic. You have here on this slide the 4 key strategic orientations. This is what we want to achieve in the medium term with any project we fund. And to make it simple and so that everyone can remember, it's open strategic autonomy, quite clear. We've seen the disruption of value chains, supply chains. It is restoring ecosystems. It's sustainable, competitive economy, and resilient and democratic society. So if you have these 4 areas present, this is the meta objectives. And then in the part of Horizon for which I'm responsible, digital, industry, and space, we have used 3 of these strategic orientations, not the restoring ecosystems, and translated this into 6 destinations. So it's still one element lower in focusing your objectives and formulating your objectives. It's a twin transition, it's resilience, it's data, it's digital emerging technologies, so the next generation of key digital technologies, it's space, all related to space, and then it's the human centricity dimension. And in 4 weeks, I hope, we will publish the investment program Horizon Europe for the years 2023 and 24. It's for this cluster 1.7 billion euros investment, and there are 4 projects directly relevant for Industry 5.0. And you see them here. The overall budget for this is some 50 million euros for all 4. Just to make concrete pilot cases of this power of industry to transform and to be human-centric, to make it concrete. Second, to get really real, what is behind, what are the drivers, what are the barriers, what are the success factors, how we can measure it to make it real. The third one is related to the European Bauhaus. We all know how important buildings are for our societies, but also for our transition to climate neutrality, and then using extended virtual reality for Industry 5.0. So, to conclude, you may say, this is a concept which is not for me, I'm still with 4.0, and we still have to do that. Perfectly fine with me. 4.0, with the next steps on cyber physical spaces, on data sharing, on edge computing, is highly relevant, remains highly relevant in this industrial revolution. But you may also say, yes, the future direction, my unique selling point in terms of attracting skills, in terms of anticipating shocks, in terms of withstanding shocks, in terms of overcoming disruptions, is with a new focus on human centricity, is with a new value proposal, then you are on the path which we call Industry 5.0. And to conclude with a very personal message, the European integration started 1954 with industry, coal and steel, the coal and steel community. Now, in this fundamental transformation we need to succeed in to become sustainable, to live within the boundaries of the planet, to stop climate change, to limit Earth's global warming to 1.5 degrees, industry again can be the peacemaker, this time the peacemaker with nature. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Droell, for a very interesting and inspiring lecture. We have 2 minutes because the topic was very interesting and maybe there are some questions from the audience. If not, maybe I have one.
I see one.
Yeah, please.
Thank you very much. Przemysław Kazienko from this university. I represent artificial intelligence expertise and have 2 questions or remarks. One question is about the quite recent events, namely the problem with microchips, and what is your position and what is the role of Europe in microchip production as the key role in the development of both industry and everyday appliances, whatever. It is short-term problem, probably, but it is quite crucial, and decoupling it is correlated problem with for example, with Asian countries, especially with China. And yet a completely another problem it is with this coherence between humans and machines. And what is observable right now is that the quite recent generation is less intelligent than we are, actually. So that's the observation. So one of the factors for that is that we are more dependent on thinking provided by machine and reasoning, that artificial intelligence and any kind of systems that surround us think for us. So we do not need thinking. So it means that we use our brain less and less. So this coherence can lead in the long time, of course, to the case when humans will be, lost somehow in the entire environment. We will lose our ability for thinking. So that's the more physiological question, long-term question, anyway. Yeah. So thank you.
Thank you so much. Maybe I start with the last one. Yes, I think we see that, and there is evidence actually that our capacity to concentrate, time span is shortening and shortening. Our brain is adjusting. At the same time, we have a new level of information available to us. So maybe we need to play more with cooperation. But and maybe then we are also already looking at 100 years from now where we will be taken over by machines, for the philosophical part. On semiconductors, chips, thank you for that question. It's a wonderful question or example of how EU can do better together. We have trusted for too long, that we could be taking all the semiconductors from one island, 90%, and that all this supply would be stable, and now found no. So we need to reshore, come to our own competences, be not autonomous, that's unrealistic, but be a bit more sovereign in the provision of semiconductors. So we have created this CHIPS Act, a European piece of industrial policy with the ambition of investing 42 billion in the next years. It's a little miracle because we are in the 7-year financial period of the EU. There's no fresh money. We have reprioritized. I have, for my part of the budget, we have reprioritized 400 million for materials development for new chips, because there also we need to look at circularity, at becoming more independent from import of materials, silicon, the limits of silicon. I think if you look at what happened with batteries, where 5 years ago no one would think that Europe is producing batteries. We are now producing batteries, mega factories, huge investments, and that can make us, especially in Poland, that can make us optimistic also for these chips.
Let's thanks again Professor Dr. Droell for this wonderful presentation.